Okay, now that I'm back, did a little video posted up there for everybody on YouTube. Now we're going to talk about over here the important part. Ensure the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. Set clear expectations and goals, then coach and hold people accountable. And that is what we're not doing. When people come into this new spirituality, um, all too often, if there's a standard to be met, the knee jerk reaction is, oh, it's too much like a church. It's like Christianity. I ain't doing it. I don't have to. I don't have to stand in front of my God. Blah, 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 blah. Whoa, whine, whine, whine. Okay. Guess what that's led to? A huge morass of wildly diverging people and spiritualities and namaste. You think that's how they built empires in Europe? No. There was a standard. There was a Gothi, and he's the one that meted out punishment for cowardice and treason and certain infractions in the community. And what that leads you to understand is that in living in these communities, and I don't really care what tribe it was, you had to live up to a standard. There were certain obligations to living in that society. And more, we are allowing others to determine what those obligations should look like. If we are going to prosper and grow in this spirituality and this faith, there is a certain set of standards we need to make sure that people understand. Now, supervised and accomplished, and that's kind of a scary thought at first glance. It's, well, I don't want anybody supervising me. And that's a very important point. But what we have to do is create a real solid framework by which people might achieve the success in their own lives. Because as it says, every man was the lead priest in his own home. So we're not asking anyone to set that aside. Every man is still going to be the king of his own castle. But what we want to accomplish is the most powerful success for that castle those people can enjoy without sacrificing principles that have allowed us to achieve success and greatness and accomplishment in the past. So when everybody says, well, I'll use this from the Greek idea over here, that, you know what, that Celtic idea is pretty cool. I'll use both of them. Hey, that voodoo thing looks pretty cool. I might try that as well and see what happens. That willy-nilly mishmash of things, if you look about, is it helping people align themselves with who they truly are? Is it helping people align themselves to what they could become? Is it helping people to achieve any kind of greatness? Or is it simply allowing them to feel the most comfortable passing time in this realm? And that's typically what happens. They're allowed to indulge in certain righteous indignations, pipe dreams, ideas, and feel most comfortable about passing the time. If you want to be successful, you're going to have to challenge yourself and get out of that comfort zone. And if you read anything about Tacitus, he always says those men in the manor bund were always trying to outdo the prince who led them. That was their goal, was to outdo the guy in front of him, to do better than, to be more than, to fight harder than, to demonstrate his prowess as a man. And if they began to fail, sometimes there'd be women on the hill, they'd show their boobs and wail, and everybody knew what's going to happen to them, and they fought even harder and sometimes turned the tide of battle. That was their obligation, to help men meet their obligation. So when we talk about leadership principles, when we talk about building ourselves, all of it leads up to that kind of stuff. We have to ensure the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. We largely still need to define the task. What is this task of following the ideas and principles of Asatru? Or any of the pagan spiritualities for that matter. They have no problems with Kemetism or Hellenistic ideas. They have their ideas too. I want them to be just as successful. I want them to have clear expectations and goals. But we need real leaders to coach people, not to bar them. You know, rubber, the chicken shit kind of allegations that typically comes up when someone tries to outdo the person that brought them, but to coach and then hold accountable. And see, that's what I don't see men doing with each other, holding each other accountable. Listen, if you're fucking around with your wife and your buddy knows about it, he's not your buddy because he should be saying, look, you're stupid. Quit fucking doing that shit. Do things the right way. You know, we got to try harder. We got to try harder to be men of good moral character. And everybody's got ideas about morals. I get that. I understand. But to coach somebody to greatness, you got to start somewhere, don't you? You got to build that framework that allows a person to, and number one, above all things, they got to be honest about everything. Even if a little lie might work better, be honest about it. Much as it sucks. I'll tell you what, if you live that kind of life, if you stay that kind of honest, pretty soon you'll figure out how good life can be. That much I can assure you. It takes a lot of courage. And there's some things that'll have to be undone. But if we're going to build a framework that lasts, that I don't care if you're running a small business, you've got to have a framework of how to make things, how the product comes in, how it gets labeled, how it gets sold, how it's strung up, how you do the taxes, how we do the inventory. There's a framework for everything. Even you're running a home, you got to know what groceries to buy and stock, and you have the meals ready. I'll think I'll cook this, and I'll cook this, and the dishes got to be done, and I need to do two loads of laundry every day, and I got to fold it, put it up, stay on top of everything. That's how it works, guys. And it's no different with our spirituality. The idea that we might just kind of go along with the flow and every now and again let a political idea slide in if we can't quite figure it out is asinine. At face value, that kind of stuff is asinine and does and hasn't and won't lead us anywhere. It won't allow us. I mean, how are we ever going to justify our position at the seat of the table of the world's great religions if we can't promote the idea that our individuals' adherents to this have good, solid lives that are a contribution to their community? When half of these dickheads are out here saying, we're going to tear down the government. Shut up. Can't even got your shit together to run for public office. You're going to talk about tearing down the government. Good job. Lead with the chin. Let everyone know. That's smart. Good thinking. Way outside the framework of what we're trying to accomplish here. But people still adhere to that political Jesus like it means something. I don't care what your fantasy is about our past. I don't care if you buy into the Aryan myth or Atlantis or anything else. Point of interest, though, there's more legitimacy to Atlantis than there is to the Aryan myth. Let me tell you that. Because you can search all kinds of historical documents. You won't find a great city. You won't find any ancient battlefields. You won't find any representation that such a great culture ever existed. Because it's a fucking farce. We can't build a framework on that. We cannot undo 70 years of media manipulation that vilified such things. We cannot build anything with that framework. As leaders, if we've worked through these principles and find ourselves stepping above to do the right thing time and time again, whether in service to a greater cause or in front of the greater cause. Because one thing every leader needs to understand, this is the part where you become the cheerleader. The unrelenting, positive role model of a cheerleader telling everybody, yes, you can do it. Stick with these tools. You have what it takes to try. Put one foot in front of the other and give it hell. Well, we can't do that. You can't coach somebody that's got all these wildly different, retarded, made up ideas about some shit they read from, I don't know, the Thule Society or the last Greek Renaissance ideas or the Celtic. You can't do it from a standpoint of knowledge alone. It's got to be your heart and your mind and your body working together to understand where people are coming from. How's you going to coach them? If they're operating outside of that framework, unless you have a profound understanding of how the human mind and heart works, which I happen to have, and thank you very much, having read Jordan Peterson's latest book, which I haven't, but it's going to be very difficult for you to to see the people that you love achieve the results they want to achieve. And the really tough part is when you come up to them and it dawns on you that they're terrified if they let this idea they hold so dearly go, what will they become? And see, that's without a framework, it's very difficult to coach someone through those very tough times of life. Ensure the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. And this is where you become the role of the great cheerleader. This is where you've set the example, you've done the hard work, you give a shit, people know, people see, people care, and all of a sudden you have their ear. Your obligation is to work inside that framework that allows them to build their success. And sometimes it's just a job. Everybody comes in to trade their time for somebody else's dollars. But you got to motivate them to want to do that, to build the team, to build a passion for the brand. This is a real important one. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. The ability to do that, be it with great philosophical advice or sound spiritual guidance, is entirely up to you. But if you've worked through these other leadership principles to become something really worth listening to or really worth talking to, or somebody that says, hey, I want someone what that guy has working in my life, then you got a chance to really build greatness, not in yourself, but in those people around you. And that's something that's real hard for people to want to give up, just to take that backseat role and allow that person, you know what, I hate it. That son of a bitch is stronger than me. Pisses me off. Well, I'm going to keep trying to be stronger. In the meantime, I'm going to encourage him to become as strong as he possibly can. That person's smarter than me. Damn, that sucks. Okay. Let's find something great to do. And I'll encourage you to continue on with your research to do something great to be a benefit of society. It's just the way it is. The role of leader and cheerleader and coach is more often than not a role of service to those people around you so they might have the great lives you wish for yourself. And then something magical really begins to happen when you work with these things. Then you begin to see that, and then you understand that you're receiving greater gifts than you ever thought you were capable of giving, simply because you told someone, I think it's a fine thing how far you've come. Keep trying.